ton of time in this meeting. I'm just going to try and do this as quickly as possible. And I'm just going to start north at the Green District. The northern boundary of this is the city limits, and then also the western boundary. And this is San Juan Canyon Creek. Moving south, Junipero Serra. Then it again moves along south. This is Avenue de la Vis. And here are the Casitas Capistrano and Las Brisas. The southern boundary of this is Paso Santa Clara, and then La Zanja, El Camino Real, and El Horno. Then moving up along the 5. And then part of Spotted Bull. And I just want to mention that the reason that it's only part of Spotted Bull, we heard community testimony saying that this area of Spotted Bull had a lot in common.
Village San Juan.
Excuse me?
Village San
Oh,
Juan.
thank you. There's so many neighborhoods in such a small town. I'm doing my best to memorize all of them, so thank you for the correction.
Speak up, please.
Okay. So here in Village San Juan, only part of the village, because we heard testimony specifically saying that these areas in the village had a lot in common with the area further south here in Casitas Capistrano, and that this area in gray didn't have or had more in common with the rest of the gray area. And also, when we looked at incorporating this entire area of the village, or rather all of the village, into the green area for population reasons, it put the percent deviation over 5%. So that's what Karen was saying. We have about 5% deviation to work with. Adding this area in made the green district over 5%. And we can look at all of that together in a little bit as well. And also, so this is the green district. The total population is 7,130 as it is right now. And the percent deviation is 3%. So it's 3% over the ideal population. Next, I'm going to talk about the blue district. For the blue district, again, this is Junipero Serra, moving south along Camino Capistrano, and then De La Vis. This is the same boundary that we talked about for the green district. It's Paso Santa Clara, La Zanja, El Camino Real, El Horno, and then south on 5. And it moves west and south along the creek. Then moves up on Alipas. And then this is also Alipas. It's sort of bordering the community center and sports park where we are right now. Then goes west. This is Paso Carolina. And then moves north. This is Velardes. Again, back to Alipas and Old San Juan Road. Moving up again further to Tribuco Creek. And then it meets back up here with Junipero Serra. And the population of the blue district is 6,698, and the percent deviation is negative 3.2%. Okay, I'm going to move on to the yellow district. Again, this is San Juan Canyon Creek, is the northern boundary of the yellow district. Moves south on the city limits. So again, these are just the boundaries of the city. Then the southern boundary is also the city limits. This roughly follows Via de Agua. This here is Via Cascada also. And then this is just one big census block. It's not following any city streets. I think it's pretty close to California. California comes around in here. Again, just sort of moving up, it meets La Novia, crosses the 5, then heads north following the 5, then follows the creek south. Again, this is up Alipas. Again, this is Paso Carolina, Velardes, and Old San Juan Road. Again, following the creek, Trabuco Creek, up to San Juan Canyon Creek. And the population of the yellow district is 6,666, and it's negative 3.7% deviation. Moving on to the red district, the northern boundary of the red district is the creek. And then the eastern and southern boundaries are the city limits. Then again, this is roughly Via de Agua, this big census block, back to La Novia, then again north on 5 where it meets up with the creek. And the population of the red district is 6,860, and the percent deviation is negative 0.9%. So it's really close to that ideal population. All right, and lastly, the gray district with a total population of 7,239. This district has a 4.6% deviation. And the boundaries of that, on the southern boundary is the creek. On the eastern boundary is the city limits. Then the western boundary is on the 5. And then again, this area of the village is not in the gray district, it's in the green district. There is an area here where you can get through so you can see that it is in one district. Truly is. And this is Edgewood, this is Westmont Court, this is Woodlake Court, just to give an idea of where these boundaries are. And on the south side is Rosenbaum Road. And then the rest of the boundaries of the district, it just moves south on the 5 back to the creek. Okay, and because we know it's going to come up, I'm just going to highlight this census block. So this is where I mentioned the population reasons were the reasons that the village couldn't be whole in this map. So this is one census block. As you can see, it also includes these smaller census blocks and one right here. I'll zoom in so everybody can get a better look. So this is just one census block, and we can't really break it up to make it look like a nice, pretty square everywhere in the city. This is what we have to work with. And just in that area that's highlighted in red, there's 904 people. So if we were going to move that into the green district, then there would be a 16.1% deviation in the green district if everything stayed exactly as it was. And in the gray district, it would be negative 8.4%. So that's just a reason, or that's the reason why that isn't whole in the district as it is right now. And we can look into changing everything. That's part of what this meeting is about. And also, again, because we heard testimony from people saying that that area that's highlighted in red really is more similar to the gray area, and the area that's in green right now belonged with the other areas in the green district that are west of the 5.
I think people would recognize that as Spotted Bull. As Spotted Bull.
Okay, so that's Spotted Bull, and the
Bull.
village is the
The
green.
village San Juan.
Thank you.
I also just wanted to say something about census blocks really quickly, and if you haven't been here. So we can't split census blocks because census blocks are the smallest units on which the census is giving us population. If we split it, we don't know how many people are going to be in the district. So it's a really bad idea to do this. So essentially, you just don't split census blocks. Sometimes the census doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Some of these census blocks, they've been here for a really long time. We've gone through a project called Block Boundary Suggestion that just finished last night. And at 3 a.m. this morning, my office actually, when I put my other hat on at UC Berkeley, we submitted a file to the Census Bureau to clean up some of these census blocks. If they take our suggestions, then you guys are going to have much better and nicer census blocks to work with in the next district in a few years when we're redrawing the districts. Okay, so some of the things that are looking a little funny right now, you'll have an opportunity to clean that up next time. I just wanted to let you know that because this does look funny and there's really weird census blocks all over the city. We've seen them everywhere pretty much.
When you post this map on the city's website, is it going to have all the streets in there too?
Yeah, we're gonna, what we're gonna do after this meeting, as soon as we have a draft tonight, we're actually gonna make like one map for each district so that we can zoom in a little bit better, and it's gonna have the major streets labeled and then also the borders, so that, you know, people can zoom in a little bit better.
There's also an interactive map on the city's website right now where you can type in an address in San Juan Capistrano and it'll zoom in to that address and you can see what district it's in right now.
My question is, did you take in consideration what could be developed, the land that can be developed on?
Thank you for that question. So the question was, did we take into consideration the land that could be developed? And the answer is no, not really. Because essentially what we're looking for is equalizing the population. So it has to be based on what the census, you know, whoever was counted by the census. Now the good news is that even though you guys are doing this pretty late in the decade and the census only comes around every 10 years to count, we're only 4 years away from the new census count. So you are going to have, you know, fresh numbers for, you know, the redrawing of the districts actually very soon. So, and at that point, you may have some development, and there may be new people there, and there may actually be new people there already that are not reflected in this count because, you know, the count was collected in the year ending with 0, so it was 2010. So lots of things in California happen, of course. So I'm going to let Jamie finish, and then we'll open it up to public testimony, if that's okay.
Okay, and just really quickly for anybody who couldn't make the city council meeting, I just want to mention the sort of the issues with the map that were earmarked by the city council to look into. One of them is that the village should all be in the same district. The second one is, we looked at it on this, when we were looking at the boundaries, this is El Horno, and so the request there was to look if we could see if all of the Mission Hills area could be in the same district, and ideally for that whole community to be in the blue district. The next one that we've also received community of interest testimony since this map has been released was about sort of unifying this neighborhood that is split by Old San Juan Road. So half of it is in yellow and half of it is in blue right here. The next is to see if Rancho Alipas Estates could be in the blue district. The next was to take a look at this line here on Velardes and to see if both sides of that neighborhood could be with the blue district. And the last is to keep Las Ramblas together, and that is to say that both sides of the street could be together in one district. I also really quickly want to mention that since I have digitized all of the community of interest testimony that we have received so far up until last night, basically. So I haven't digitized any community of interest testimony that we've received today just because we've been traveling and haven't had a moment to do it. And I have done my best to reflect communities of interest as they are as close to the testimony as possible. And as we saw, sometimes the census block boundaries just are kind of funny looking or way bigger or just don't necessarily reflect the boundaries of an HOA, for example. So I've always done my best to do it with, the speaker's intention in mind. And so far, we've received 31 communities of interest that I could digitize. And some of them are, repeat, where we heard about the same community over and over again. So definitely more than 30 people have spoken. And of those 30 communities of interest, or 31, excuse me, this map respects the vast majority of them, 26 of them, and only 5 of them are split. And I'm just going to quickly show those also so that that's something we can keep in mind when we're working on mapping also. So the first one here is the Spotted Bull and Village area. So that whole pink area, that's one of the communities of interest that was split. Next. There's these 3 HOAs that are just west of Casitas Capistrano that are split. It consists of 3 HOAs that we heard testimony that it was one community of interest and that they would like to be in one city council district. The next, we heard testimony about the mobile home parks near Del Obispo. And this is one big, I will link in this one also. So this is one big census block that also includes some of the mobile home parks. And as you can see here, it touches the city boundaries. So basically to have that community of interest be whole, then it would have to also be, I guess, the boundary of one of the districts, or, as is, then all of this area would have to be blue, if that makes sense, just so that, again, we don't have like 2 pockets of a yellow district with blue in between it, so that it could be yellow all the way through. And for population reasons, that's why this community of interest is split in this draft. And we also heard about a community of interest that sort of has 2 areas in it that was saying that these two areas, the speaker was saying that these two areas have interest in that because of traffic situations, there's concern about the response time for emergency vehicles. And basically the reason I didn't include them in one like solid contiguous, there's that word again, community of interest, is because I didn't feel like it really reflected, they weren't necessarily saying that this area along Ortega Highway was part of the community of interest. It was more these two separate areas had issues with response time of emergency vehicles. And lastly, again, this is just a very large community of interest, and for population reasons and trading off with other communities of interest, this was split. This was talking again about traffic patterns and school, I think elementary schools that were served by these communities. So of all of the 31 communities of interest that are digitized, those were the only 5 that were split. And again, those are just split for population reasons. And I think that, yeah, it's really good first draft of a map, and we have a lot to work with for the next city council meeting, which is happening on Monday night.
So, if you would like to perhaps give us some input on these maps and fill out a speaker card, we have some speaker cards already. What we'd like to do is just call on you one at a time and give us some feedback. You know, you like it, you don't like it, some specifics, whatever you want to tell us. And then when we're done with this, we'll just start drawing maps and then we'll see where we're going. Does that make sense to everybody? So we'll just start calling some speakers, okay? So first speaker is Matt Gaffney, please. Just step up. Would you like to?
My question is, I keep hearing that this rule, this law doesn't apply to cities with under 50,000 residents. And if that's the case, why are we going through all this? Because we don't have 50,000 residents. To the attorney.
Thank you. I'm not really sure what you're referring to because
My understanding of the way the law is it doesn't apply to cities under 50,000 residents with the districts.
I'm not aware of that. The government code section that we are relying on to transition to district elections provides that for cities that have a population under 100,000 persons, the city council can enact an ordinance